Alright, so starting from the first white hook, extend your yarn to the other side just so you know where your tail is. And this is going to be my scrap yarn color, not the color I'm using. So with your scrap yarn color, hold it tight like that, lock it in, and then you're going to go behind that loop and then around the other one. You're going to do that back and forth. Make sure your bobbin piece is closed. That way it doesn't grab onto your hooks. And you're going to go all the way across. Make sure you keep about the same tension length. So now from here, put your yarn underneath that red hook and then open this up and then lock it in either on the first notch or the second hook. I like to hold it on the first notch. Now coming back, you're going to move your handle the opposite direction, and you can make sure with a yarn needle or just with your crochet hook to make sure that that first loop goes underneath that hook right there. Nothing didn't go. So if it doesn't go, just like that, now it grabbed. And then make sure you have enough extra yarn, kind of loose and ready. And you're going to make sure you get each one across. I would take it slightly slow. From here, make sure it grabs under that red hook. And then back and forth. On the ends, I tend to go a little bit slower than normal just to make sure that it grabs. Underneath that red hook right there. And make sure it grabs. Make sure you have enough yarn right there. And then keep going. Now you're going to need about 10 rows of the scrap yarn color. Now the reason for the rows is because you're going to be grabbing the stitches. Hold on, baby.
You making yarn?
Yeah. So from here, you're just going to make sure that you make 10 rows with your scrap yarn color. So your number doesn't exactly have to reach 10, but around that amount of yarn is probably enough for the scrap yarn. From here, get your scissors, and again, make a line to the other side of your Addi machine and cut your yarn. And then from here, hold on to that tail and grab the actual color that you're going to use. I like to make them about even, and then enter it in, and then hold tight and make sure it gets underneath the first few. And then from here, you're just going to be going back and forth. Now for my runner, I did 32 inches, and unfortunately my counter stopped, so I didn't get the exact number. So I did 32 inches, so my second panel, I'm doing 32 inches again. If you can catch the number, make sure you write it down, and then do the exact same number of your actual color of that many rows. And all you're going to do here is just go back and forth until you reach the 32 inches or the amount that you're going for. And then keep on going. And just make sure you always get that last red hook. once you reach your 32 inches at the end right here, grab your yarn, go across your machine again, and cut your yarn. Then you're going to grab your scrap yarn again. I'm going to pull this one out and grab your tail, so make sure they're about even. That way you have a point that you know where they're at. And make sure that you grab them in under the loops on the black ones, just so you can't catch them in. And then from here, it's very simple, just make sure it grabs in. Just like that. And then, just like the beginning, you're gonna want about 5 to 10 rounds, just enough border so you can find that last stitch. And if you can, make sure you get that same last little marker. And then coming back and forth. Now, one thing to remember is when you're putting your yarns together, just don't tie them because you're gonna take them all out later. Alright, so that should be enough. As long as you can see where the last stitch is. I'll probably zoom in right now, but as long as you can see the last little stitches about right here, that's gonna be where you're gonna grab from when you're sewing your panels together. Okay. Now grab your yarn and grab it all the way across again. And this is the best part. It's when you come back this way. All you have to do is let it run through. Make sure this is still closed so it doesn't grab onto your hooks. And then go back and forth, and it's going to pop those little pieces of yarn right off. Some of them might stay because of the extra length of the yarn stopped at that certain point. And just like that, your panel is off. And then if you look up close, you have these little stitches right here, and that's where you're going to stitch your two panels together. And after that, you're going to take this off. So just so you can see how I stitched together the bottom side, I like to start, as I mentioned a minute ago, 3 stitches over, and I do 1 single crochet, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, 5 in the corner. There's a lot of yarn going on right here, so I have it saved with my stitch marker so I don't lose my spot. And then from here, make sure you have the right loop. And we're going to hang on to those tails on the side for a moment there. So now, what you would do is you would find that corner stitch, and you would find the other corner stitch on the other side. And that's pretty much what I did. And I did the 5 single crochets in there. Now the next part is very easy. As you can see here, there's 1 yellow stitch on the very top, and I'm going to grab that one. I'm going to kick those tails over to the side. And then there's 1 yellow stitch popping out on the top right here. Now you want to make sure you get them consecutively. You're going to pull your yarn through both, yarn over, and single crochet. And you're pretty much doing that all the way down. You grab the top one and the next in line, top one of the next in line. Now it's important to make sure you get every single one, because if you miss one, then you kind of unravel quite a lot. So you're just going to keep on going down. Now if by chance you do miss a stitch and you notice it after, just grab a scrap piece of yarn and make a tie through it. And that way you can tie it in. And then you can work over that tie with a design on another layer, or another round I should say. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this little piece up right here. So after you finish making all your leaves and pumpkins, I recommend sewing together half of your panels together, leaving the other half open. So I like to start, when I do panel work, I like to start kind of on the outside of this edge, and then I would go around, and then I'd do 5 single crochets in each corner. This one's a little off corner, but once I work my way back around for the second round, it won't be there. Now to know if you did lose track of your count on your Addi machine, what you can do on these is, I'll show more up close in just a minute here, but you can skip a stitch on one side and go the same stitch on the other side when you're going in. That way you can kind of make it even towards the end. But for now, all I have to do is I sew on my leaves, but I'm gonna pick the side that looks the best as the bottom part. And then the top part, I know I had a few little missed stitches that I grabbed and fixed on one side, but either way, each side works really. And then I'm just gonna sew all of that in on one side first before I stitch in to the rest. All right, so now once you reach the end corner, make sure you get 5 single crochets in the last 2 stitches, and then do the next 3 just to secure it in. And if you notice, I still have my yellow tail right there, so I'm going to be tying that in a deeper tie in just a moment. But insert your hook into the exact same line and then single crochet all the way down. So if you look closer right here, it's in the exact same one. Now to know if by chance you went over a few rounds by accident, like about 2 or 3 on one side compared to the other, all you have to do is skip 1 on one side and do the same on the other side, and just do that a few times as you need to, but not too much or it'll bunch up. But other than that, it's 1 and 1 for each side. But if you need to do more than 1, I would recommend doing skip 1, the next one, skip 1, the next one, because if you do consecutively skips, it will bunch up like crazy. If you have your yellow tail right there, you can always, at this point as well, you can kind of give it an extra tie-in. But looking closely right there, you can see that same line going all the way down on both sides. And then as well, you're going to want to have your decorations sewed in on one side as well, so that way you can hide all those tails on the inside and all the markings on the inside. And that's how it's going to look on the edging. So once you reach to the last bit and you connect all corners together, make sure you do 5 of the single crochets into that corner. And then from here, we're gonna start the pattern for the border. So we're gonna do 5 double crochets in this next stitch over. So you're gonna skip 1 and go into the next stitch, which is the 5 double crochets. Skip 1 and do a single crochet. Skip 1, and the next one, do 5 double crochets. And that's pretty much what you're gonna copy all the way around. You're gonna copy the 5 double crochets in one stitch, skip a stitch, single crochet, skip a stitch, and then repeat. And then from there, it will look like a little bit wavy which is kind of fun because then you're gonna have a different texture to your table runner. And this is how it's gonna look so far. And that's how it's gonna look all the way around. So make sure you get all the way to the corner. And then once you get to the corner, even if you have to skip 1 or 2 stitches to make sure you get 5 into the actual corner, sometimes you might have to skip 2 just depending on the amount of stitches, but you're gonna do 5 half double crochets in the corners as opposed to the double. And then from there, you're pretty much gonna copy the same thing over. You're just gonna do the skip 1, and then 5, skip 1, and then single crochet. And just make sure you make it all the way around. And that's how your corners should look. Okay, so now for the very last bit, join with the slip stitch, and then you're gonna grab your second color, the first color that you used for your table runner, and you're gonna make that the last round, and chain 1. Now what I like to do to secure my tails is I give them an extra little tie right here. And then from here you can either work them over, or you can just or you can use the sewing needle and you can put them inside the 2 layers. So either way works. Now for the very last round, you're gonna want to make every other stitch a single crochet pretty much. The corners are gonna have 5 single crochets in each. So this is my first corner. I'm going to do 5 single crochets into my very first corner. And then I'm going to skip 1. You might have to skip 1 or 2 actually, because in the first round where you did your single crochet, you want to skip that stitch because you want to have the side, middle, so you want to have the sides and then the very top part of each shell stitch right there. So the peak of the shell, skip 1, and that leaves you at that side, skipping the single crochet right there and into the next side on the next shell. And that's kind of how you want that one to go. It is going to bring the stitches in tighter from the shell, so it won't be as wavy and floofy. It'll take it in just a little bit, and it'll give it more texture because then you can pop those shells out just a little bit. And this is the finished product. After finishing it all together with a slip stitch on the corner, make sure all your tails are hidden on the inside, and add your own creativity and leaves and whatever decorations you prefer. But thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave it in the box below and I'll be happy to answer. Have an awesome and wonderfully blessed day.